Imagine this. You wake up one morning and take a good, hard look at yourself in the mirror. You can't help but notice your reflection. I bet you're thinking, damn, I look good. Until you notice something in the faintest corner of your lower lip. Is that a group of blisters? You panic. You run frantically around the room, Google searching on your phone. What is this thing on my face? Is this something new? How do I get rid of it? I can't go out looking like this.
In health news tonight, trials are being tested for a future genital herpes vaccine.
Possible breakthrough for the millions of people in America who suffer with herpes outbreaks.
And part of that is from the lessons we've learned from COVID. We're combining all those lessons with what we've learned over decades regarding the biology of HSV to, I think, make a new generation of vaccines.
I don't think a lot of people realize how HSV too can impact their life, not only physically but emotionally.
You don't just suffer from the area, your whole entire body suffers. You're sore, you're receiving headaches.
Everyone is uncomfortable talking about it, but yet 60% of the U.S. population is positive for HSV1 or herpes virus type 1, which is responsible for cold sores.
You advocate while we do the work. I really believe together we can pull and bring an end to these infections that have affected so many people.
It's 1960 and the American people must be fearful of a new invisible invader. This aggressor has no sympathy, family, friends, and even your enemies are not protected. In fact, the people closest to you might be your biggest threat. Who is this aggressor, you may ask? Well, its name is the Herpes Simplex virus. This life form, containing a singular double-stranded DNA strand, spans the width of only 160 nanometers. Despite its microscopic size, its ability to invade humans poses a significant threat to our nation. Out of the 100 different mutations of this virus, only 8 routinely affect humans, although the most common out of the 8 is the herpes simplex type 1 and 2. Type 1 of this virus can be contracted by contact with a sore, saliva, or the surface around the mouth containing the virus, while type 2 is contracted by contact with fluids or sores containing herpes simplex during sexual intercourse. The symptoms of this virus may be minimal, as many only experience sores, itching, and a tingling sensation that subside within a week, yet the harmful effects of this virus reside in those who are asymptomatic as well. Those who are asymptomatic are usually unaware of their infection. However, the contraction of this virus increases the likelihood of contracting HIV by threefold, and also can endanger the loved ones of people who are asymptomatic. The lack of knowledge increases the likelihood of infection, and if an immunocompromised person contracts this virus, that can lead to further health complications. The fear the American public has of this virus is similar to the fear of nuclear threats, as stigmas of this virus are far more harmful than the virus itself.
Stigmas of which have negatively affected African American women the most. Long before the 1960s, black women were enslaved in America. They were treated as objects, which led to the sexual exploitation of this minority. Today, in the 1960s, African American women still experience discrimination and sexual objectification. Because of this, many Americans today in the 1960s believe in the stereotype that African American women have genital herpes. Some can argue that the stigmas and stereotypes surrounding this virus poses more of a threat than the virus itself. Americans are less likely to seek treatment for this virus because of the fear of being perceived or defined by the virus's stigmas. This led to 80% of HIV-positive patients not being aware that they had herpes simplex before getting diagnosed with HIV. The stigmas surrounding the virus have also contributed to the lack of research and treatment of the virus. Without patients and adequate treatment options, this enemy will continue to propagate. This poses questions for the future. What will future Americans think of the herpes simplex virus? How far will this virus spread, and how dangerous will it become?
It's 2023 and the American people are not fearful. Instead, they're annoyed. Today, the problems facing the people are not new or unknown. Rather, these issues have been caused by historical ignorance and neglect of the past American people. Despite the lack of faults, the people of today are charged with the enormous headache of fixing their ancestors' mistakes. Issues like climate change, inequality, and sexually transmitted diseases like the herpes simplex virus. Today, an estimated 48% of the population has the herpes simplex type 1. Although scientists are now speculating this percentage is far greater than previously predicted, since asymptomatic affections are so common. Americans are annoyed with dealing with the painful blisters and open sores around their mouth and genitals, so researchers and scientists are finding new innovative ways to combat this historical enemy.
Like the development of a new promising vaccine. Over the past decade, there has been a surge of knowledge about epidemiology and virulence. Since then, scientists have begun experimenting with vaccines that prevent and/or reduce the symptoms of the herpes simplex virus. However, innovation does not come without its setbacks. Over the past 5 years, 3 separate vaccines failed due to lack of investment. The vaccines were either minimally reducing symptoms or requiring 9 to 10 booster shots a year to maintain its activity. Despite these setbacks, several new vaccine candidates are showing promising results in the animal trials. Although Americans have a long way to go until they can completely eradicate this enemy, this virus can serve as a reminder of the past so that the people no longer let fear or ignorance guide their choices. No matter how many antiretroviral drugs or topical ointments you may use on yourself, nobody can change the nature of the herpes simplex virus, and that's okay. No amount of magic cures will ever eradicate the real enemy, the perception of herpes itself. Rather than searching for the next cure or vaccine, perhaps realize that herpes simplex virus has been something that humanity has dealt with for thousands of years, from the days of ancient Rome, who temporarily banned kissing to prevent the spread of herpes, to it being found in ancient literature, such as the 16th century's Romeo and Juliet, which cites blisters over ladies' lips. Instead, practice normalizing the herpes virus within society and realize that the stigmas and stereotypes, like the physical symptoms of herpes itself, are merely surface level.